about this thing across the middle. We're just going live, which is exactly the way that when I woke up one morning, nearly 100 episodes. This is every Wednesday. Nearly 100 episodes ago, I woke up one morning and I went, I know what? I'll feel safe going live if I have a group of people around me. And I am so safe today. So, Mike, this is Allison and Helen and Debbie, and in Independence, Oregon. Helen is in Ottawa. So we're just down here. It's just another day tomorrow in Canada. They've got their own
Happy belated Canada Day,
celebrations.
by the way, Helen.
Thank you.
I was going to
Oh,
say,
yes.
yes, happy Canada Day.
Born and raised in downtown Toronto, so I am a proud Canadian. So
Oh.
yeah, we were. What I said to everybody yesterday is that what Canadians do on Canada Day, if they're expats, is they quietly send a polite note to other expats they know and say Happy Canada Day, and that's just fine.
Mhm.
I was in Canada for 3 years, and I told my people that were also expats, Happy Canada Day. Hey, let's take it. It's a holiday.
Yeah. It was on Monday, Christine and Allison, if you didn't know.
Oh gosh, yeah, I'm so
Yeah.
sorry. Yeah, I've been down here too long. Monday this week.
Oh, wow. Allison, where are you? So Debbie spent quite a while just outside of Toronto with her job, which she can talk about again, because I'm like, oh my goodness, they're telling all this great information and why they were where they were, and we haven't gone live yet. So Allison, can we hear you?
Sure. Yes. Can you hear me okay?
Yes. Oh my goodness,
Okay.
because I was listening and watching things and I was like, oh no, I didn't give Allison a chance to check her mic as we were beginning. So I know what's going on, what just happened with Helen, what just happened with Debbie, all good news. I know that Mike was very recently being interviewed and he kept blowing me away with his knowledge of, oh yeah, that area of life and aging and caring and senior living and all this. And I'm like, oh, please come in. Allison, I'm just going to start with you because people like me, I shouldn't say who wouldn't want to age openly. And I'm afraid that in an average room full of people waiting to go into a movie or something, it's like, I don't want to age openly. That's something you're supposed to hide, or you don't want to talk about it until you've got like it's your 90th or your 100th birthday. And then everyone's like, congratulations. But for me, because I'm the aging enthusiast, I'm like, oh, I hope Allison can come. She wants to talk about aging openly or openly aging. Go for it. Allison, tell us about
Thank
you.
you. Yeah. So I'm located in Durham, North Carolina, but I do my work, nationally. I can help whoever. But so I spent 20 years as an executive director in senior living, which afforded me an opportunity to see thousands of aging journeys, thousands of family dynamics. And what I, took away from that was, for many years, I thought crisis was kind of normal in this space, because we kind of live in this world where we wait when we're aging until something happens, and then we have to make very big decisions that are expensive. And we kind of come into those decisions a little uneducated or having to tell mom she has no choices left because there was no pre planning and talking about it. And so once I realized, wow, we don't really have to live waiting for a crisis, waiting for a fall that takes away all of our autonomy and all of our goals and desires as aging. So I started openly aging to really start working with people way ahead of when they may need some sort of care or some sort of support. And even after 20 years of running assisted livings, memory cares, independent livings, I also think there's a great opportunity for us to avoid higher level of care. But the only way we can do that is if we take care of ourselves ahead of time, of course, really think about the environment we're living in. Does it make sense? Who's around to support us if we start needing support? does the house we live in really make sense? Or should we take that step and downsize to a more appropriate place so we can age successfully? It's kind of taking away, being a little proactive and taking away those red flags that are going to be the reasons or the catalyst to what will bring us into higher level of care. So I did self-publish a book this year. It's called Openly Aging. It's the 4 pillars to keep control of your aging journey. And how I created the pillars, and that's kind of the framework of my whole business, is these pillars, because every crisis I saw in senior living fell into one of these pillars. So if we are really thoughtful about our individual pillars way ahead of time, the control we will be able to keep is, I mean, I truly believe it will be life-changing for many people and for many families, because it's a family situation as we age, you know? So having our adult children know, oh my gosh, mom and dad have been so thoughtful about this. They're making such great proactive decisions, or they're well educated on the business models of home care, assisted living. Wow, that what a burden that takes off of me. I can just be here to be that support for them. And so that's the goal. So I call myself an aging advisor. I've kind of created this genre, if you will, this niche, and it's truly like a financial advisor, but for aging. So I meet with clients when they're independent or adult children who are kind of dealing with, things are happening. And I just help them get educated and feel okay and just know the pros and cons of every decision so they're making the best decision. Because aging is universal, but your aging journey is 100% unique to you.
Oh, great. This is so silly, but I well up in my heart of being proud of you that you didn't just go, huh, I did that job. Man, if only people had done this.
Mhm.
You know, I guess the wise are the ones who are going to age well enough that everyone goes, I know their core values. I'm just going to say mom. I know mom's core values,
Mhm.
what honors her most, what makes sense.
Mhm.
She started sharing stuff. She'd say, you know, the lady down the street, my cousin, I just want you to know I don't want this. I definitely have strong feelings about that. You
Mhm.
know, and the wise are going to do well, and everyone else, well, it's just going to be a constant, you know, train wreck on
Mhm.
in a blinding blizzard on an asteroid being sucked into the
And
gravity well of the sun. You know, there's
and
one
my
good
thing is,
news is that the snow is going to melt because it's being sucked into the sun. The bad news is everything else is going to melt too. You know, it's just, you know, sorry that you didn't know this. I'm so proud of you going,
thank
I've
you.
watched it again and again, and it falls into how simple 4 different pillars.
Yeah, thank
Good
you.
grief. So, Mike, you obviously know what okay, I'm back. Mike, you know what Allison is talking about as far as having that opportunity to be around people and seeing commonalities and getting ahead of it and thinking, wow, this is important. So I have Scott and I have a 25-year-old daughter who she and her husband have already told us how they're going to take care of us and what's important to them. So I'm thinking I've talked about this kind of stuff enough, and then I go, you know what? I want you to hear this today. I want, you know, so um this isn't all on you, or I would be more honored and you could feel less guilt if this sort of thing occurs to me and I'm unable or unwilling to give you my comment in that moment. You can know this solid fact about me and be able to apply it and be fine. You know, you can try to feel guilty or you can try to read my mind, but don't. Just know this is fine with me. in generalities at the very least. So, Mike, what do you think of when you're listening to Allison
It's
talking about
incredibly
what she
self-aware of your
did?
daughter to do this. I mean, I think that this is an extremely strong minority of folks. Maybe it's just because of your good works and positive influence that you guys are having these conversations now. Because it's usually the other way around, and I would say that it's relatively rare. What we see, in our business, and just to give some background for your audience, our United Church Homes, we are a nonprofit provider of senior community living solutions, as well as supportive services for family caregivers and those that are aging. We're in 14 states. We are on 2 tribal nations. And we have a service that actually, the majority of what we do is affordable housing. And HUD, or Housing and Urban Development, actually helps to underwrite a position in affordable housing called a service coordinator. And that's been around for decades. And that's before the term social determinants of health was even conceived or whatever. It's someone to be available to residents to help kind of evaluate their needs and connect them with resources, many of which are just kind of off the grid. So local community resources. But above all, they are good listeners. And I know, Allison, that's probably your situation. It's caregiving is common, but also incredibly unique. And so we have seen collectively with our service coordinators, as we call them now, Naviguides. We've seen people go through issues in aging hundreds and hundreds and thousands of times. And so being available with that service to help people that may be going through it for the first time is incredibly valuable. But it starts with listening. It starts with really just listening and being sensitive to those particularities. And then, families just generally just need a good head start. So the significant opportunity that we're seeing is with that type of service. We recently announced a joint venture with a managed care payer called CareSource that has a state Medicaid contract, so state waiver programs and things of that sort. Naviguide and is an employer benefit now. So the employees, we've certainly helped people that said, I'm going to quit. I need to quit my job and just really dive in because I don't know the first thing about getting my parent onto Social Security disability or getting them into Medicaid or signing them up for a waiver program or finding home health or just finding a good maintenance person to install a grab bar. And then, oh my God, where do you put the grab bar? So we are proficient at that. And it is a direct-to-consumer service if people are interested in coming to us for that, either for a one-time or a month-by-month service. But it is this plug-in for, you're going to see more and more of that skill set in managed care programs and employer benefit programs. Anybody that wants to have more information about Naviguide, we're nationwide in the United States, and we also do extend in some services into Canada. UCHNaviguide.org is the website, so please check it out. But we're just astounded by how effective just listening to people is. Calling up your parent, checking in on them once in a while, being that third party, that neutral Switzerland type actor in that relationship. Because as we started off with, families don't have these conversations, and we broker those conversations. And so when you're at need, again, that's most of the value is listening and organizing.
Oh, of all the things that stayed with me, you said 2 tribal nations.
Yes.
And I thought that is a first for me to hear that there's a farther spread. I live in a small, I don't know, small population-wise county, Polk County in Oregon. And there's a whole tribal nation. And we've actually driven onto that property. And I see the representation in the local news, which, I mean, we're just a small population area. So local news is once a week. That's our paper, is once a week. And I just wondered, there's got to be more going on there. But is there enough communication? Is it that somebody makes a decision going, the majority of the people in this county, would they be interested in the news of this tribal nation? And that thought has occurred to me as I've read through our paper. And you're like, and 2 tribal nations, and I'm like,
Yeah,
whew.
and I think it's important to recognize that, aging, there are commonalities in aging, but all healthcare is local and all social work is local. And and the dynamisms that you find just from place to place, whether you're in Eugene, Oregon, or Kalamazoo, Michigan, or what have you, yes, we have these commonalities around functional decline, around cognitive decline, and we don't have clinical care pathways like you do when you have, I don't know, thyroid cancer, God forbid. If I'm a person of a certain age, a certain weight, a certain condition, there are medical databases that you can go into and say, oh, try this chemo first or try this drug first. Chemo. That's not what's happening with what we call social determinants. You've got a functional state, you've got a clinical state, you've got a financial state, you've got a relational state, you've got a mental state, you've got a motivational state. You've got all of those different factors. And what we need to do to effectively support someone is really figure out which one over indexes. I mean, what we like to say is that nobody takes their medication because they like how it tastes. Okay, what is that underlying motivational factor that we need to really just get to? Because, again, here I am in my early 50s, not having the privilege of knowing a lived experience in my 70s and 80s and 90s, but I know enough to know that these are normal people with normal daily lives, with normal ambitions, with normal, friends, families, hobbies, whatever it might be. They just have these doggone things getting in the way when their body disappoints themselves, when their mind disappoints themselves. And, they're not alone. We have seen people go through this hundreds and hundreds of times before, although we don't know their personal lived experience. There needs to be these actors in people's lives that are able to at least make some sense out of that chaos.
Wow. Debbie or Helen, either of you, when he's talking about those states, is that something both of you have TED Talks or books or both, just going on? I'll just
Mhm.
say, whoever wants to say something from here on out, I get to just sit in and stay hydrated and listen to all that you offer, because people, if they come on this show to say aging, it stinks, boy, I just wish that somebody would take care of, or if they've come on to complain, I'm sure there's another show or a clubhouse that they can get on to complain. But all of you offer real, tangible solutions and enrichments, because it's already been said, this is your life. You're a regular person, and the they eventually becomes the me as I'm continuing to live, and these doggone things are getting in the way of my living. And yes, age related or more pronounced as I continue with life, or it's happening to more of my friends. Maybe they aren't happening to me, but people I care about, it's happening to. And it just seems to be happening more and more, whatever the it is. So when he talked about these different states, I'm just going, oh, this guy's got a handle on it. And so do both of you. So you can unmute and just talk about it.
I absolutely love what Allison and Mike were saying, and I agree with them totally. And I love the fact that Allison is saying openly age. Why try to hide it? We're not fooling anybody, and and we're all going through it. We have a lot of different experiences and things, so um, we just need to accept it. And I think when you shift your mindset and accept this is where I am, then you can make a plan to move forward. And then as Mike was saying too, you got all these issues and all these things going on. Well, where I come in is to help people stop focusing on the negative, stop focusing on what I can't do anymore or what your loved one can't do anymore, and appreciate the blessings that are there. There are blessings to be had throughout the journey. I'm a 3-time caregiver. I cared for my dad with Parkinson's till he passed in his home, which was his wish. I cared for my mother-in-law with Alzheimer's until she passed in my home, her wish. I cared for my mom with vascular dementia for 21 years. My mom, blissfully unaware, had no idea she even had dementia, even though she couldn't find her way to the restroom, didn't recognize my house, all the things, but she was still a happy little camper. It was such a blessing. And then when she started passing out and she outweighed me by 35 pounds, the doctor said, "This is not sustainable. You can't do this." So I cried and cried and cried and took my sweet little mom to a memory care facility. Felt like I had let her down. Like, I cared for the other two, and here I can't care for my sweet mother. So the guilt was just overwhelming. And I took her in. I had a room all set up ahead of time and everything with her favorite things and all the stuff. Took her in. She loved it. She had new friends. She had activities going on. She had things to do. It was a blessing for her that I did not foresee. I was looking at it through my eyes, not my mother's. And I think my mom might have been a little bit bored with just me. Um, so so she just blossomed. And it also helped me because then I didn't have to be the bad guy anymore. I wasn't the one who was making her eat, who was making her take a shower, who was, making her take her medicine, all these things. I got to back up and just be her daughter. And it was fantastic. It really improved our relationship. We got to laugh and play instead of, like I said, me being the bad guy for all the things. And so what I do is help people, like I said, look at the good, and there are ways you can still have fun and joy all the way through the whole journey. When my mom got to the point where she could no longer speak, we still had laughter. She couldn't talk, she couldn't communicate like that. So kneel down in front of her and go, or just puff my cheeks out, make a crazy face, whatever. She would laugh, and then she'd make the funny face back at me. And so we laughed and we had joy and we'd hug each other and just laugh. And I'd give her lots of, strawberry shakes and ice cream because that was her favorite. And who cares anymore? I'm not worried about the healthy stuff when she's at end of life. Let's just make her happy and let her have fun. And that became what I wanted to do. That became my mission, was to make mom laugh. And so that's what I did. And I'd visited her very often, and it turned out to be a blessing. So those caregivers that are feeling all that guilt because you had to put your loved one into a home, don't, don't. It's the best thing for them, and it can be the best thing for your relationship. And so I'm in the unique position of caring for three loved ones with three different types of dementia, three different living arrangements. And so I can relate to caregivers. I understand where they're at. I understand what they're going through, and I can help them. So I do Zoom consultations, and I do that on purpose. One, because it's nationwide, and then two, because you don't have to get your loved one dressed and haul them out somewhere to go and meet someone, which is stressful in itself. And then while you're trying to talk to someone, you're worried about what your loved one's doing or what they're getting into or if they're okay. So it's a very stressful situation. So what we do is I have my clients schedule when your loved one generally is asleep, when they're watching TV, whatever it is that works for you. And then if you have to cancel, I get it. I understand. So it's not a big deal. So people can visit my website at thepurplevine.com. I have a blog that gives you lots of information and lots of articles on support and help. I am a firm believer in laughter. Laughter reduces the stress, lowers your blood pressure, lowers your anxiety, and there is always laughter to be found, regardless of the situation. So I help caregivers find that, as well as find solutions and strategies and things that will work, because we created all sorts of things to make life safer. So that's what I do. That became my mission. I believe that you go through things for a purpose. And everything that you use, that you go through, that you experience, then you can help the next person behind you. And I can say, it's okay. You're going to get through this. It's all right. Let me help you, because I learned things that you should do and things that you should not do. And I laugh at my mistakes. I'm like, hey, don't do this. I did. It was horrific.
Well, it sounds like mom was your last
Yes.
caregiving
Yeah, I
life
just lost her in
experience?
September. She was the very first one diagnosed and the
Wow.
last one to pass away. So I just lost her recently.
Yes, 21 years. And it still just comes rolling out of you. Just the don't feel guilty. In any situation, one person cannot be a staff of people. One
Right.
person doesn't have it isn't a lack of love or determination. You don't have the lived experience of these other people. It's crazy, crazy good how another person can walk into a situation and go, "Oh, this reminds me of my favorite uncle and what I used to do." And then you watch them interact with your loved one, and you're just like, "Are you magic?" It's like, "No, I paid attention and I'm just seeing the same characteristics here." And you're just like, "Oh, thank you. Thank you for showing me the way." Oh my gracious. Helen, thank you so much. I am so happy that we are not all in the same spot. That Allison, have you could just nod your head. Have you ever been to Canada?
Mm-mm.
Okay, so I've been
I know.
there
I'll add it to my bucket
twice.
list.
Yes, and so at this point my mother is 92. We are downsizing, and I've been going through things, and I had an entire file that was my present for my mom. It was the last year that I was a teacher because we were entering into an era of adopting babies, and it was the last month paycheck. And I thought, Scott and I had such a wonderful time in Canada. So I took her up because we're in Oregon, so we're only just a little Washington away. And we actually went over to the island and Butchart Gardens, and it just I mean, it was an opportunity for my mom to almost be swinging her purse as a just that's not the way that my mom goes walking down the street, but she was so delighted by everything that was happening, and the gentleman who was playing Amazing Grace with a bagpipe. And I'm like, "Would you like your picture taken with him?" And she's just posing like he's her best friend. And this has nothing to do with aging or anything else. It was just a memory. I found a handwritten note from my dad, who made something out of wood for me as like a thank you gift for taking mom and just giving her a time that, I don't know, two adult women together before I got busy with babies, just that opportunity. She's 92 now, and those opportunities are not possible. So we still have that. I still have the note from Dad, who passed over 20 years ago. My mom will say, "Remember when we sat in a hot tub?" That's the only time we ever sat in a hot tub together. So Canada has this little for me too. Debbie's been up there. Mike's been up there. He's smiling really big. So Allison, you know what can be on your list
Yeah, I
next.
was up there for years. I was born in Canada along with Helen.
That's right. That's right. You were born there. You didn't go there. It was Debbie that went there because
Canadians,
of
man, will
work.
sneak up on you.
I went there for 3 years. It was great. I froze to death, but it was great. And you went to the most beautiful part, in my opinion, when you went up to Vancouver and probably went in that area to BC. Oh
Yeah.
my gosh, I love it. Beautiful.
Oh my
Well,
goodness.
I'm from a different region than Vancouver. I'm in sort of central.
Yes.
Ottawa is the capital, and most people don't even know that in the United States. But I know that most of you do on this particular show. But yeah, but my life has been all over the place, but I landed here and I've been here for the last 50 years. So I can only say it's been a pleasure to be here. And especially now, it's a great pleasure to be here. So I'm grateful. I'm grateful that I ended up here. But I have to say, I'm an outlier to this conversation. And I don't know if that was intentional or not, but I'm not in the care business. I am in, I reinvented myself. I was an educational leader. I was a head of girls' schools and a principal. And in my mid 60s, after doing not-for-profit work in the last, for about 10 years, I started experiencing a very strange feeling and not recognizing what it was until I was introduced to somebody who exposed me to social entrepreneurship and social impact investing. So I launched into social enterprise at age 67. And what I focused on was aging and ageism in particular, because I realized that what I was experiencing, the lack of confidence, the feeling of being fairly invisible after having had a terrific career, was typical of what we now know as self-directed or internalized ageism. So I wanted to make a point of creating an environment in which others who are my age could soar. And then, so I started studying the demographics. I created a social enterprise called Top 60 Over 60, because my original intent was to showcase all the amazing, extraordinary, ordinary individuals. I'm not looking at a Forbes women who are over age 50, we're over age 50 and make $50 million. No, I'm looking at your extraordinary, ordinary individual. And everybody thought that was a great idea, because we have, I'm sure you do too, top 40 under 40, top 30 under 30. So I created Top 60 Over 60. And now that was my original intent, but I haven't fulfilled that goal yet. I'm looking for funding or collaboration or sponsorship. What happened was I was drawn into this whole piece on ageism, and I started to develop courses and programs on purpose and later life. And so I really became an advocate for older adults, one in particular who are looking for work, so that I speak with businesses and mostly at conferences and keynotes. And I just recently did a TEDx, which Scott kindly put up on the screen there, and it's called Embrace Age with a Longevity Mindset. So my focus has been on understanding and dismantling a lot of the myths that many employers and many older people themselves believe about aging, which are simply untrue. There are huge benefits to growing older, but the only connotation most people have, and especially my generation, and I'm proud to say that next week I'm turning 75. Yeah, I know. Isn't that a milestone, huh? Yeah, exactly. That they think that life ends, at the traditional retirement age of 65, which was a date that was created for Social Security purposes in the 1930s in the United States, when the average lifespan was 62. And today, the average lifespan is sort of in the 80s, and my grandchildren will have a lifespan probably into the 100s, because the average life expectancy is going up, progressively. So there's lots to look forward to. But biggest damage done to the older generation is the fact that society has been so youth-centric that we have dismissed completely the value of older adults. I never use the word seniors because it has a negative connotation. So you'll never see anything I write. And I'm in the process of editing my book. I've already published another part of a book. This book will be about, the opportunities that await us as we get older. So I got a grant a few years ago, and I started looking at the entrepreneurial mindset specifically of and how it was impacted by self-directed ageism. And it was a huge success. The study was published. So having been an educator, I have to say I'm always about learning and also educating, not necessarily teaching or preaching, but trying to get messages that are important or that I consider important out there. So that's what the Top 60 Over the 60 has evolved into. We have a variety of different programs and speaking engagements. And we're a niche consultancy. I mean, I'm all about age diversity. People do not understand that diversity includes age and that age is intersectional. I can be gay and be older, and I can be Black or, Hindu. It doesn't matter. We're all aging, and that aging is a process that's natural, and we should stop trying to defy it. We should embrace it. And there are ways in which we can really have a lot more control over our older life than many people think. It's not downhill at all. And our brain actually is, it expands in different ways. And yeah, we have lapses in memory, but so do 30-year-olds. They can't remember where they put their keys either. However, it's it's crystallized as opposed to fluid when we're younger. And there are different aptitudes that we develop. We have better judgment. We have much better emotional regulation. We lose our egos. And so we really need to encourage the future generations to look forward to aging. And we need to help employers understand that they should retain their older employees, not get rid of them, and maybe rehire, or when you're looking to hire, consider somebody who's 65 or 70, because they bring different skills to the workforce. And the return on investment has been proven to be extremely, extremely high. Although that's not what you would expect. So all these myths about us not being technologically savvy or can't learn new things, not true. It may take longer to process some things, but in return, you get a whole bunch of other assets and a willingness to mentor or to be with young people. And so, unfortunately, because of the work I've been doing, I recognize that we have an epidemic of ageism today, which is one of the reasons why we have so much loneliness and isolation among older people as well as young people. And that 1 out of 2 persons globally is ageist against older adults. Ageism goes both ways, but it mostly affects older people. So we really, as a society, need to deal with this in a very with policies and whatnot, because there's so much institutional ageism that's built into our organizations. Healthcare is one of the worst, I want you to know, and all of you who work in that area are probably recognize that. But healthcare workers are the ones who, unfortunately, constantly infantilize older people, or, it's called elder speak. They minimize.
We talk about birthday cards as too, Helen. That always seems to get people fired up. Is the greeting card industry and all of those things, right?
Absolutely. And then you look at, you want people to stay in the workforce, but you don't give them any insurance after age 65. Or, RBC wrote to me and told me that at age 75, they're not going to, I should re-examine what my policy says about my Visa card. And I thought, you guys need to get with the program, because the fastest growing demographic in the world is centenarians and those over the age of 85.
It's 85 plus is actually the fastest growing age group. Is 85 plus.
In Canada,
and that's truly, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Helen, what you're saying is exactly what I write about in my book. Is ageism is a huge issue, but what I take the stance on is we need to help aging individuals, because I agree seniors is a terrible word. My book is all aging individuals, on what is your responsibility in that? And your responsibility is to not put yourself in a crisis. It's not to allow yourself to pretend you're not aging, and then all of a sudden something does happen and adult children have to come in and save the day. Isn't that what ageism is? Weak, dependable, all these things. So if we continue to do it, and we're never going to get out of this world of ageism, because so let's take an empowered direction toward our aging and say, hey, what can I do today? What can I do? Because I also saw so many people angry at aging. They felt they were forced into a living situation they didn't want to be in, but they were also leaving their family no choices. They fell and didn't tell anyone. And I always say to my clients, because I worked with people before, their aging journey begins essentially. And I say, if you fall, you need to you need to talk about, there are certain things that you can start right away to make that not happen again, or for a while. So it's just this shame, this aging and shame is really holding us back. And
Does
that's
anybody here know
what,
the concept of learned helplessness? Learned helplessness. And we've had the privilege, on our own podcast, and just to give some more background, we have something the United Church Homes called the Ruth Frost Parker Center for Abundant Aging, whose chief mission is to end ageism and to do away with ageist tropes. Like, oh, the way that I am today is because of all the bad habits I had when I was younger, or I need to do something extraordinary in aging to show that I'm still, vital and important and all the rest of it. It's become such a great resource, and there's so many great voices out there that speak to this, whether it's, calling out the greeting card industry for cards that are everything over the age of 30 is either loss of virility for men or loss of beauty for women. And then this idea of, employment, and, the most creative time in people's lives has been shown to be age 60 to 69. Right. Second most creative, age 70 to 79. Third most creative, age 50 to 59. So I want people to pay attention to the work of Laura Carstensen at the Stanford Institute for Longevity and their new map of life. Yeah. I'd like people to pay attention to Eisenberg and his concept of unretired. I think his phrase is retire early and retire often. I'd like people to pay attention to the work of Bob Kramer and with the National Investment Center, where he teaches and he says ageism is a bias against your future self. And I think that, with just the inevitability of the age wave, not the tsunamis are destructive.
But they're negative too, just as it's in line with all the negative thinking about aging. And it's a silver economy that we are creating, and it's positive. And we need to look at that as opposed to the vulnerability that you just identified. And because that is not necessarily the majority of the population, but that's the majority of the messages we get.
Of the trope, of the image. We're not only going to have more years of life, we're going to have more healthy years of life. And those more healthy years are going to redefine the thoughts. And by the way, I'm not sure if we're going to see another baby boom generation ever. I mean, there was just this unique, set of circumstances after World War II where we have this large, but it portends a lot of opportunity for positive examples in aging. I don't want to see tropey pictures of 95-year-olds skydiving. I want to see the 90-year-old that's still out golfing every day. And yes, I know who that is. I want to see the 102-year-old woman that leads exercise classes at a community. And yes, I know that woman. And it's not because she likes exercise. She is a physical education teacher, she is a physical education teacher. She has a sense of purpose. Right. And really, that's just the through line here. I mean, how do we enable that despite your body disappointing you?
And that's why, that's why
I think you're absolutely right too. The sense of purpose is critical in aging. And we need to not accept the people that say, oh, you're going to forget more and more things and all this kind of stuff, and just accept it, because there are things that we can do to strengthen our brain. And it's been proven that we can improve our memory. And so simple things just like changing a habit. If you brush your teeth with your right hand all the time, switch and brush your teeth with your left hand. And you're going to be surprised, because your left hand doesn't really know what to do. It's not used to doing this. But when you do it, you're creating a new habit, but you're also growing your brain. And so you're increasing the growth. And that's there's just so many things that you can do. And that's what I talk with people too. You don't give up. Life is not over. You get a diagnosis of dementia. That doesn't mean that your life is over. There's plenty of life to be led. And there's a lot of bias against the word dementia as well. They hear someone has dementia, they write them off. Okay, you're done. And that's just not true. I know many people who are working, contributing, doing wonderful things for the world that have the diagnosis. But again, to me, it goes back to mindset, because are you, as Allison said, a victim, or are you someone who's going to be an overcomer? And if you choose to be an overcomer and change your vision from looking at everything that's wrong and that I can't do and that's negative, because you can build back up to so many of those things. And it's just a matter of exercise, diet,
Or slow it.
exercising your brain.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
And you
it's
can
also
improve
like if
you
you
can
get a
talk about
diagnosis of
moving.
dementia, that should be a catalyst to dive in to therapy,
Yes.
to talking to your family, to being open and honest about what's going on. It shouldn't be let's hide in the corner and not tell anyone because we're embarrassed.
Yes.
That's how you
Exactly.
end up in a memory care. Not all the time, but for some types of dementia that are pretty generalized and not all, not specific.
But there-
There's a lot of dementia that's stagnated, created. That's what I view.
there's so
Stagnation
much,
creation.
sorry, there's so much research that is so compelling now about having a positive mindset about aging that that we can live longer,
Yes.
healthier, and with greater cognition. And
Yes.
we can't
And
ignore that. And there's
yes.
constantly new research. But what you were describing, Debbie, yeah, you're talking about new neural pathways that are developing.
Yes.
And those continue to develop even in older
Yes.
age. I mean, Norman Deutsch with with brain plasticity talked about that over a decade ago. And of course, it's an open field. Everybody's talking about it. One of the things I think we need to be mindful of, however, is that there's also a parallel universe looking at prolonging age for the sake of age's sake, biohacks and whatnot. Well, I'm not into that. And I'm looking at accepting age as the natural process it is, and helping people understand what they can do in order for them to maximize their potential at a later age. I just shifted from children when I was in high school principal to older adults, but it's the same process in terms of continuing growth, curiosity, experimentation, open-mindedness. All of these are characteristics of somebody who has potential to do a lot throughout their whole life.
Can I
Right.
point out how much of a Western view this tends to be? Because we had a guest on our show, and I'm going to botch this, but there's a word in an African dialect called botsofe, and that is a concept for when your body starts to slow. That is your signal that your mind to expand. Your body is slowing, so your mind can then expand, and then you can share your experience, share your wisdom, share your creativity. And it's sort of it's a natural kind of switch into elderhood. And I'm not aware of any Western society that sort of has a view like that. And perhaps we're behind.
We are. We should know that by now. Look at Eastern philosophies and whatnot that have been around for decades, centuries, and thousands of years. I mean, it's just like acupuncture and so many other things that we don't believe in. Unfortunately, I think that just like prisons, retirement homes, and I'm not disrespecting anyone. These have become businesses. They're commercial to a large extent. So I think that you put people in prisons, and some private citizens make money, right? And I'm not saying you shouldn't have senior citizens homes or whatever, but I'm just saying that's not the parallel I'm trying to make. But I am looking at the way in which things are, privatized and commercialized, and it's very convincing then sometimes to say, shuffle mama off to, a place where I don't have to be bothered with her anymore, and that
And I think
that's
I
terrible.
think you're absolutely right. And but we can be proactive in that as well, because I am a huge proponent of being an advocate, which is funny. That's the name of my brand new book too, that just came out, The Caregiver's Advocate. And
Congrats.
it talks about you have to get involved. You have to speak for them. When I put my mom into a memory care facility, I put cameras in her room because I wanted to see what was going on and how she was being treated, because she can't relay that information to me. And so then to let them know that I was watching, I'd call up there, hey, mom didn't eat. And they said, yeah, yes, she did. We took her down and we set her down. I said, right. And she had to go to the restroom, and she came back to the room, went to the restroom, and then sat down and watched TV. She did not have supper. And so they were like, oh, okay, well, we'll take care of it. But that let them know that I was monitoring, that I was watching. When people know you're watching, they're going to take better care of your loved one. And so, as a child with a parent there, be involved, speak up for them, visit at all different hours. Don't visit at the same time, Wednesday at 3 o'clock. Then they know you're coming at this time and things are going to be great at this time. And not that they're evil, there's some wonderful people in the facility, but if they know that you're monitoring, then they're going to do better. And if you demand they do better, because you have that right. And that's absolutely what I did. I was so involved. Even when mom was in memory care, I was up there all the time and monitoring medications, monitoring her food, monitoring the things. It's not that you're no longer a caregiver if you put them in a facility. You need to still be active in
But
those
you're
programs.
highlighting something really important that I don't think employers quite understand. If you're still employed and if you have a parent who needs the kind of advocacy and help that you need, this is where employers have to look at benefits that go both directions. It's not just childcare anymore. It's also elder care or any other kind of care. Everybody needs to have an opportunity to take the time they need at certain points. It sounds like you must have given up your work at that point when you had, but not everybody can do that, right?
I did. I had to, because I was traveling coast to coast.
Yeah.
And, dad took my mom's medicine by mistake. Dad had low blood pressure, mom had high. He's comatose and I'm out on the coast and nearly comatose. He wasn't totally, but, and we had a couple of incidents like that. Then my mother-in-law locked herself out of her home in the middle of a snowstorm, did not have the cognitive ability to walk next door to the neighbors that she'd known for over 40 years. Instead, she sat in her car until her daughter got home from work for 7 or 8 hours. And so things had to change. I couldn't do it.
But I also,
take care of them and still
I
work.
also think that the care is going to change. The institutionalized living that we are very used to from an aging perspective, it's getting very expensive. People can't afford it. Staffing is hard to find. Families don't trust it. So I'm actually in the process of writing another book, and it is all about creating our own aging worlds where we have control of who is hired, where we choose who we are going to community live with. Where that is depends on, is it a condo and we all buy condos? Is it tiny homes? Is it a house where we, are all decide that we're going to age together? But what it allows for is for us to hire the care before we need it necessarily, or if one of our co-occupants, whatever, needs it, because the institutionalized living model, it's people do, and I did it for 20 years and I still believe it's the right option for many people of this generation, that if that is what they need, that is what they need. I believe in that. But I do think, I'm in my early 40s, I feel there's an opportunity as I age to create my own, because I do believe social engagement and community living is very, very important. I do think that, but I want to have more control of it.
Multi-generational living and has to become more normalized again. I mean, when we think about it during the previous generations, when we had a rural economy, we had many members of the family living together. And we also know that that's true in other cultures. Most Indian families they'd be shunned if they put their parents somewhere. Not to
Japanese
say that,
too.
Yeah. Oh, many different cultures. Yeah. So the point is, things have to change and they're going to change. But I think we're really at a tipping point when people are just now beginning to realize this demographic shift is going to have very powerful implications.
It's one of the most predictive things on this planet right now is this age wave. I want to just take a moment to congratulate both Allison and Debbie, you as well, Helen, of course. You guys have lived this experience. You are owning it. You are putting your knowledge out into the world, and I just want to amplify your voice on this podcast to know that you guys are incredibly valuable resources. With what Over the Aging is doing, with what the Purple Vine is doing, and I think that's so. Anybody who is listening, please, check out what Allison and Debbie and Helen are doing. Also, if you work for an employer, I would advise you to check in with your HR department and see if you do have an EAP benefit for caregiver support. With our NaviGuide service, I know that we have probably 7,000 or 8,000 employees that we support. I know for a fact that we have helped keep several caregivers in the workforce, and one of the number one valuable people in the workforce. Decades of institutional knowledge. Losing those people hurts employers. So if that is not present within your EAP benefits, you can advocate for that to be included. Much the same as there are child care benefits, there are many providers, not just United Church Homes, that do these employer programs. And so that should be a point of advocacy for anybody who wants to see that in their benefit package.
Thank you,
This
Mike,
has
for all you
been
do as
so
well.
dynamic. Ah, I keep thinking an hour is a long time. No, it isn't. No, it isn't. I love this. Helen, you made a comment and you said, I don't know if this was done on purpose, but I come from a different, I have a different focus or whatever than what I've been hearing. And I'm just going, if someone says that day works out for me, that's when they come. And I know that commonalities are just going to show themselves, or someone's going to go, I didn't know anything about that. I am so glad to hear about this because that impacts me or would be so beneficial to my clients, or that is a different perspective that would make more sense in this thing that I've been trying to push and push and push up a hill. And it turns out that you've got a wheelbarrow for it, and that's going to help me. It's still going to be hard work, but you've come up with the book, the service, the words to say about something that you see as a gap or as it's been not addressed correctly or early enough, whatever it is. I love these times. I'm going to show my books so quickly. I wrote this, and it does say Caregiver Kit. It's practical. It's what can I do? I'm going to say if you're solo aging, or you might be aging alone, this is something that you can do to recognize your own grieving, because something that also accompanies healthy longevity is that other people are not continuing around you and they have been part of your life. My other book is my spot where I put all the information that I saw, and I didn't get it down to 4 pillars. I decided there's 52 weeks in a year. I wonder if there's 52 of these aspects of aging that I've been noticing, because I cared for people in their own homes. I was brought in so that they could continue to be where they were for a various number of reasons. So I got to see their support system, the other people that were part of their life. And I also got to hear what other people in their lives were saying. This is what we did right. And so I just put 52 different things a person could look at one of those aspects of aging and go, I do have an opinion about that. Oh, what do you know? She's got some prompts down here for communicate, document, and practice ahead of time. Oh, that didn't hurt as much as I thought. I thought aging was something to hide from, or ageism is something that I don't have, or I'm not guilty of, or has never been done to me. And just discovering more about aging in the most general terms, which aging is living. We are at the last minute. Mike, Allison, Debbie, Helen, thank you so much. I'm so grateful to my husband, D. Scott Smith, motivational listener, who has been putting those different things on the screen. People can find this replay and hear what did he say? Who should I go to? What link should I be looking at? And on my website is agingbeternetwork.com. And you can always find this. It will be under today's date, which is the 3rd of July. I am so grateful. We got to talk about Canada. We got to talk about caring. We got to talk about, isn't that great that some people are doing this right? But wouldn't it be great if more people were getting ahead of difficulties or just a lack of information? Just inform me. Oh my goodness, thank you for the tools. I can do my job, the business. I can perform my position, my I say the business of my own aging. I can perform my position much better now that I've got some training, now that I've got some backing, now that I've got a narrative around what it is that didn't seem quite right to me, but now I've got enough understanding that I know what I need to speak to an elder law attorney, what I need to say about ageism to myself and my own mindset, what I need to know so that the person that I care about, who's maybe not a relative, but they can have a living situation that is safe, that is homey, that is not too expensive and out of their reach. I know these people, and I'm going to age more openly and take on nudge my trajectory just a little bit so that I can keep up with all these people who are getting really well informed about dementia or changing and starting a new entrepreneurial venture at age 67. Whatever it is, you've got friends, you've got people right here that are experienced and experts. They've got credentials, they've got books, they've got stories that make it make sense. I'm just so grateful for all of you today. Thank you so much.
Thank you for the
Thank you
opportunity.
for
For
having
having
us.
us.
Thank you so much.
You betcha. Oh, you were all